As I was editing the first episode of the vlog, I realized that I don't look very smart on camera. But I think I figured how to fix it. There you go, now I'm sure I look super smart on camera and we can start the vlog. Welcome to the second episode of SaaS Marketing Vlog, a video series where I'm casually sharing what is happening in our marketing department, our recent wins, our recent losses, and probably some thought process behind our actions and our tactics. So today we have quite a lot to discuss. Let me reference my notes. A custom font that we're designing for Ahrefs, new author box that we have implemented on our blog, the podcast interviews that I was doing since the beginning of the year, new format of featured images for our blog articles, a small list building hack that we've implemented, and finally a few thoughts on the product launches. So if that sounds good, let's go. So let's start with the custom font that we're designing for Ahrefs. You might be wondering, what does a custom font have to do with marketing? Well, I see at least two positives. The first one is recognizability of our marketing materials and our brand in general. Think about it. When you're watching videos on YouTube, you probably see those banners at the bottom of the video, and those banners usually companies like, we're talking about SaaS companies, so SaaS companies would retarget people who already visited their website with custom branded banners to get those people back to their website and get them to subscribe to their service. So what they do on this banner, they need to make the banner resemble the design of their website, the visual appearance of their brand. So what they do, they use brand colors, they use brand logo, and maybe some design patterns that they have on their homepage. And that's pretty much it. Now, what happens if you have a custom branded font? You can pretty much use any picture, you can use any design, but as soon as you put your custom font on it, it is immediately recognizable, given that people have visited your website before or saw some of your other marketing materials, I don't know, flyers, videos, banners, etc. To be honest, I think it might be a little hard for you to grasp the awesomeness of the recognizability of branded font just from me talking about it. So
let's play a game.
I'll be showing you fonts that are taken from the logos of very successful brands, and you'll be guessing which brand is that. So where do you think this font comes from? I'll give you a second. It's Facebook. What about this font? One more second. It's Google. And what about this font? I'm sure you've recognized it. It's Coca-Cola. Let me know in comments if you were able to guess 3 out of 3 or 2 out of 3, or you didn't guess anything at all. But I think the typefaces, the fonts that I showed you that are coming from the logos of Facebook, Google and Coca-Cola are super recognizable. And think what happens when you have entirely custom branded font and not just logo, and you use it across all your marketing materials. This is pretty powerful. So that's the first one. Custom font improves the recognizability of your marketing materials and all your brand work. Second is the actual quality and also consistency of all your brand and marketing communications. Think about it. If you have a few designers on your team, and some of them need to work on your website, some of them need to work on the flyers that you distribute on conferences, some of them will be designing those banners that you see in YouTube videos. So when you have custom font, custom recognizable font that you don't see anywhere else on any other websites being used everywhere on your website, in your banners, in your printed materials, it creates that sense of consistency and also the sense of quality. And trust me, I've seen the first previews of how our website and different sections of our website will look with that custom font that we're designing for ourselves. And it's beautiful. Unfortunately, I cannot show you any examples of the font that we're working on for Ahrefs because it is still unfinished, so this is a work in progress. But what I can show you is one of my favorite fonts. I'm actually a big fan of typography, and that is a font of a city in Russia. It's St. Petersburg, quite a big city. So right now you see on screen a bunch of text that is written with that font, and think about it. There's pretty much only text, almost no other graphic materials, and the thing looks beautiful. So you just print it on like A4 sheet, and it's already amazing. You can already distribute it on conferences because it looks amazing. It looks very branded. It looks very unique. So this is the power of custom font. And then if you look how easy it is to retain, like when you have custom font, how easy it is to retain consistency across all your brand materials, all your branded materials, whether they are flyers, stickers, merchandise, etc., etc. You just put a few lines of text on a t-shirt using your custom font, and there you have it. You have a branded t-shirt. You don't need to invest anything else. So for our branded t-shirt for Ahrefs, we had to use our logo to make it recognizable. But once we have our custom font, we'll be able to write anything and people will recognize it because they will see that font on our website, in our marketing materials, even in our videos, everywhere. So that is pretty powerful for branding and for marketing. But back to that font of St. Petersburg. I think it is an absolute work of art. I fell in love with it the moment I saw it. And imagine my surprise when I discovered that the author of that font of St. Petersburg is actually married to one of our designers. So the moment these dots connected for me, I knew that we were going to have a custom font for Ahrefs, and she will be the one to create that custom font for us, because I trust her entirely. She did such a good job, not only with that font, she has a ton of experience. I'd love to talk more about typography and about the whole process of how we were discussing and how we are in the process of creating that custom branded font for Ahrefs. But unfortunately, it is hard to talk about it without showing you the actual results, and I cannot do this because it's still a work in progress. So I guess it will be a cliffhanger so that you watch the next episode, because as soon as the font is ready, I'll happily present it to you. So let's move to the next thing. And the next thing that I wanted to tell you about in this episode is new author box that we have, new beautiful author box that we have on our blog right now. Just go to ahrefs.com/blog, open any article, scroll to the bottom and you'll see it. Well as you'll see it right now in the video. So where the idea of this box came from, I actually was browsing Siege Media blog and noticed that at the end of the articles, they have a beautiful big author box that wasn't just featuring a small photo that can barely fit a face of the author, and it was 80 to 80 pixels or something, but they were using a huge photograph that was cut somewhere around the belly button, and it looked stunning and it gave a lot of credit to the author of the post. I immediately realized that I want to have that on Ahrefs blog. There are at least two reasons why I love that big author box so much. So first of all, it shows you that the content was written by a human. So sometimes as we're browsing the web, we forget that it doesn't exist by its own. It was created by humans, and when you're reading article, it's basically you having one-sided but conversation with a person. So that author box reminds that there's a human being behind that article and helps you kind of better connect with the author of the website. So that's the first thing. Second, it is amazing for personal branding, because those small avatars, those small profile pictures that can barely fit your face in them, they kind of damage your own recognizability as a person. So when you later go to a conference and people have to recognize you just by that small avatar, where a lot of people don't even look in real life the same way as they look on the avatars. But yeah, I think that those bigger pictures help your personal branding, and I think that members of our marketing team who are contributing articles for our blog are also a little bit more motivated to do a good job with their articles, because there's a huge photo of them at the end. So yeah, huge thanks to Ross Hudgens from Siege Media for the amazing idea of the author box. I'm enjoying that author box on Ahrefs blog a lot, and actually I didn't kind of steal it as is. I found a small way to improve it, to make it unique to Ahrefs blog. So the thing is, whenever we publish an article on Ahrefs blog, even though we previously had a single author at the top, like with avatar, their name and their short author bio, in reality, our articles are not entirely written by one person. So we collaborate on articles, and pretty much anyone can contribute if they have any specific thoughts, or we often also ask for feedback from our colleagues, because as you know, two heads are always better than one. And at times those contributions can be pretty large. So I felt this was kind of unfair that a few people might invest their knowledge, might invest their effort into creating an amazing article, but then at the end, there's only a single author who's getting all the credit for the article. This is why now that we have that large author box with a lot of real estate on it, we're using a bit of that real estate to add the contributors of the article, to showcase a few more people who contributed their thoughts or ideas or helped refine the article in some way. So this way everyone is happy because you get credit for all your work, and the readers of Ahrefs blog can actually see that we care a lot about our content, so much that we actually involve many people into creating every single article. So there's that. Next up is podcast interviews. So this year I've set myself a goal to be a guest on at least 20 podcast episodes, and I managed to achieve this goal approximately 4 months in. So whenever I talk to my offline or online friends about this goal, they all naturally want to know how did it go and if I'm going to repeat this again. So let me share some of the insights about this with you guys. First of all, I just think that podcast interviews have a great ROI of your time to the exposure that you get, especially considering that you get 2 or even 3 types of exposure depending on how you look at it. First of all, you get exposure for yourself personally as a personal brand, as, I don't know, influencer, thought leader, you name it. Second, you get exposure for your company brand, so more people will hear your company name, more people will hear what you're doing. And third, you get exposure for specific things, specific use cases, specific problems that your company is solving. And I don't know, maybe I can even add number 4, because you get exposure for ideas that are later credited to you. And you can get all that from investing like 2 hours on your time, like 1 hour for the actual interview, sometimes even a little bit less, and then 1 hour for the communication before you get on that interview and after you get on the interview. So yeah, 2 hours of your time and you get your message, your personal brand, your company brand, and you get to talk about your company and the problems that it solves to hundreds, sometimes thousands of listeners. Now, as marketers, I'm sure you might be wondering, like, yeah, exposure is all good, but give me something tangible. Do you get leads? Do you get sales from doing podcast interviews? Well, to be honest, I don't look at podcast interviews as a way to generate leads or sales. And actually, early on, when I tried to use podcasts as a marketing channel to bring leads to Ahrefs, we tried to sponsor them. So we had sponsored messages, and we created a unique promo code, and we created a unique landing page that was like with unique URL for each podcast, so that they could send their listeners to that URL, and we could track how many people they're sending us. And we also had like a special deal. I think it was 30% discount for the first like 6 months of using our software, which is like a super sweet deal, because Ahrefs doesn't do any discounts at all. But for the sake of like tracking leads, we wanted to do that. So once the setup was ready and we fired the sponsored messages in the podcast, what we saw is that cost per lead was like through the roof. I think it was over $1,000 per person who signed up, who paid for the first months of Ahrefs. So this was pretty expensive, and at that moment I thought that I'm not going to do podcasts ever again as a marketing channel. But then I realized that podcast is not about lead generation as much as they are about exposure. Getting your message, getting your personal brand, getting your company brand in front of lots and lots of people in just small investment of your time. Have you heard of the mere exposure effect? This is a concept from psychology that says that people are more likely to choose things that they are familiar with. So the more people hear about you, I don't know, on different blogs, on different podcasts, on different conferences, the more likely they are to choose you, the more likely they are to trust you as a professional, to trust your company, to use your services over any other things that they've heard about less. So that's about it, and this is why I think that podcasts are a great investment of your time if you're willing to do something along these lines. Other than that, you get to connect with awesome people in your industry, plus a lot of awesome people in the industry hear your interviews and reach out to you later with like some offers or deals, or just to become friends and retain a relationship. And also, what I've noticed after doing like more than 20 podcast interviews in 4 months is that my following on different social channels like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook started to grow like never before, which means that people are actually listening to those interviews, they are learning something, and they want to connect with me on these channels. Now let me share a small downside of that whole thing. And the downside is that I was doing everything by myself. Well, apart maybe from creating a huge list of podcasts where I can pitch myself, but then I was researching each podcast before pitching myself. I was writing an email pitch myself. Or alternatively, I've also learned that there are companies that can do this all for you, and they already have a network of podcasts that they have relationship with, so they can easily pitch you to the podcast host they know already, podcastbookers.com or interviewconnections.com. Now, I'm not vouching for any of them, I didn't try them, so it's not a recommendation, it's just for you to know that these companies exist, so you might reach out to a few of them if you want to do podcast interviews and negotiate with them if you want to use their help to get featured on different podcasts. Next one, we have created a new format of featured images for our blog articles. Now, if you're not familiar with what featured image is, this is an image that Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn will pull whenever you share a URL on the social network. So they try to make their timeline more beautiful. People like to look at the visuals, not just read text. So what we were doing previously, actually for best articles that we publish on our blog, we have a dedicated illustrator. We would come up with some interesting scenario, with some interesting scene that we want him to design. We have a guy with a red beard who almost acts like a mascot for our blog content, and we put him in all sorts of situations, and we have a dedicated illustrator who is taking care of those images, and they look pretty awesome. So what we were doing before that, we were featuring that image at the top of the article, and we were also cropping it and using the same image on those social networks. At first I thought that it was pretty awesome, and I think people enjoyed seeing those images, but I'm not sure about our audience, but maybe just me because I see those images so much, but I developed some kind of fatigue for looking at those kind of comics illustrations of our beard guy in different situations. Another issue that I realized we had with those images is that they don't have any text on it, while Facebook, whenever you're advertising something on Facebook, because we also want to advertise our articles, Facebook allows you to occupy up to 20% of image real estate with text. And with our kind of default featured images for our blog articles, we were not using it. We were just placing that illustration as is, and it took the entire space of the image. So I realized we need to do something else. I wanted to put some text on the image, but as soon as you put text, you cannot fit the whole illustration. So I figured we can just take some detail from the original illustration and put it next to text. And it will still look cool because the details from the illustration are still custom. And by the way, text, we're going to use our custom font there soon, which will look even more stunning. But yeah, right now I think our featured image, first of all, it has the big text on it, so that people, whenever they scroll through their timeline on Twitter or Facebook, they instantly see what the article is about because we have text on that image, and we have like some detail from the bigger illustration, so that featured image almost acts like a cliffhanger, as a preview, as a teaser for the entire illustration that they will see once they click on an image. So this is why I like the format of our new featured illustrations more, and it doesn't really take more time to create because we use the same illustration, just part of it for the image, and add text, and we get a custom good looking image. Plus, I think our new featured images don't overload people with a lot of unnecessary detail that are okay if you have a large illustration that occupies almost like your entire screen, as opposed to a small cropped image that you see on Facebook whenever you're scrolling the timeline on your mobile phone. Other than that, we are working to define the format, the style of the featured images that are not based on the bigger illustrations with our beard guy. But to be honest, I struggle to describe what we're doing there. It's just like visually, I'm trying to give our designer a direction if I like them or not. And so far, this is what we have. Let me show you a few examples. 1, 2, 3. Whoa, I'm a magician. And yes, small update, but I actually think that visuals are super important, and the way your brand is represented on social networks, in different banners, and the way your articles look when people open your blog, it is very important. So we invest actually a lot of effort and a lot of money into creating those custom illustrations every time we publish a new article. Okay, now let me share with you a very small list building hack. In the previous episode of SaaS Marketing Vlog, I told you that we've implemented that slide-in form that appears whenever you scroll to or read, preferably read actually, to the very bottom of the article on our blog. We thought that the static form is not as eye-catchy, so we decided that we'll have a slide in that will for sure catch your attention, and people will know that they can subscribe to our updates if they want. But what I forgot to mention is that a lot of people who are reading our blog are actually customers of Ahrefs, and they are not subscribed to email updates from our blog. So what we can do, given that they are logged into their Ahrefs account, it means that we know their email. It means that whenever they visit our blog and they see that form slide in, we can pre-fill that email for them. And to make it not super creepy, we always have a message like, we know your email because you have an account with Ahrefs. And this little hack actually makes it easier for people to sign up to our blog updates, because their email is already pre-filled. All they need is to click OK, and then of course confirm their email, because we don't want to spam people unless they specifically want our emails. But yeah, you don't have to type in your email, you just have to click subscribe, and that's it. It's not our idea. I actually saw quite a few SaaS companies do that, but I think it is a neat trick, and it just makes it easier for people to subscribe to your blog updates, given that they are your customers already. Speaking of which, what we do at Ahrefs, whenever you sign up for Ahrefs, whenever you start a trial or whenever you buy account, we walk you through the steps of setting up your account, and we have a screen with email notifications where, according to GDPR rules, we have to ask you if you want to get updates about new feature releases and what's happening in the company. And we also offer you to subscribe to our blog updates, which you can do by activating a toggle. And according to our data, 1 in 5 signups would activate the toggle. So we get blog subscribers this way, and this is pretty cool. So if you're running a SaaS company and you have a blog with awesome content, make sure that you offer people who subscribe, who become your customers, to automatically subscribe to your blog updates. Please don't subscribe them by default, but give them this option and make sure that they will specifically choose an option to receive your blog updates. And the final thing that I want to share with you in this second episode of our vlog is product launches. So recently we have launched a new version of our product dashboard, and whenever you release something new, you have to think about 3 things. First of all, how would your existing customers know about the feature that you have released? Okay, with dashboard that we have released, it is a little bit more obvious, because this is the first thing that people see when they log in, so they kind of see the change. But sometimes you add features inside your toolset, inside your SaaS, that are not as obvious. So you have to think of how would existing customers know about it. Second, you need to think how customers who you will have 2 weeks or like 2 months from now will learn about this feature. So this is super interesting, and this is something marketers should always keep in mind. And third, you should think about how your prospective customers, how your potential customers, and pretty much how almost everyone in the industry would know that you have this kind of feature. So the answers to those questions will give you a foundation of how your product launches or feature launches should look like. Here at Ahrefs, we solve it by having 2 checklists. First checklist is whenever we have a major update. We have 5 tools in Ahrefs, we're a toolkit, so whenever we revamp, like almost from the scratch, a new tool, we add a lot of new functionality to it, we'll have a major release, and we have a checklist of all the things we have to do whenever we do that major release. Or sometimes we might add a small feature, and for the small feature you don't want to have as many launch activities, you don't want to irritate like as many people with something not as important as a big tool update. But clearly the features and the tools that you release or you update, the magnitude of those updates is not the same. So we are not very stringent with how we follow those 2 product launch checklists, whether it's a tool or a feature. We're actually are doing something in between. So based on the importance of the feature or tool that we are releasing, we would pick the necessary activities from our product launch checklists. But you probably want to know what exactly we have in those checklists and what we are doing to promote new tools and features that we release in Ahrefs. Well, to be honest, I think it could easily be a topic of an entirely separate video, and I'll be happy to share with you like everything we're doing. But to give you just a few examples, first of all, if the marketing department knows that a tool release is a major one, so we're doing something groundbreaking, we're doing a huge update, we would actually start from teasing it. So we have our Facebook group, And I would personally post some teasers, some screenshots of the functionality that we're about to add to get our community excited about it. Then we would also post those screenshots or even some GIFs or GIFs of how the tool is coming to life. Then we sometimes even create a teaser video and promote it on YouTube to let people in our industry know that a brand new tool is coming soon. So yeah, we have some pre-launch activities if we know that the launch will be something major. Then on the actual launch, of course, we would use the in-app notifications for your active customers so that whenever people log into their account online, they will see some kind of pop-up. Usually we use intercom. Then you may also want to send an email to all of your customers. And why would you want to do both? Send email to everyone and also in-app notification to everyone. First of all, I don't really see how it hurts, because if you're paying for software, you should be okay with the updates, with the upgrades of the software that you're paying for, especially if it comes at no cost for you. And secondly, quite often the person who is buying the software and setting up their email account for all the correspondence is not the person who is using it. So you want to notify both the person who purchased the account, it could be a boss, it could be a chief marketing officer or marketing manager, etc. And these could be like individual people who are using the software, and everyone should know about your updates. Then of course you have to promote new feature on all your social networks. Wherever the customers of your software are following you, they want to get updates from you, you have to post the news about the new functionality on these social networks. And also you should make sure to update your website, your landing pages, so whenever people are browsing your website to see what you're offering, what kind of functionality you're offering, you have to make sure that all new features that you release make it there. I mean, don't get yourself in a situation where your software is all amazing and advanced, but your website haven't been updated for 2 years. So yeah, that was just a general overview of some of the most basic things that we do whenever we launch a new feature or a new tool. But if you're interested in the topic, let me know in comments if you want me to create a dedicated video about product and feature launches and give some of my thoughts and ideas, as well as our own experience at Ahrefs of how our marketing department is launching different tools and features. And that's pretty much it. We're done with the actual content of the second vlog episode. And here I promised you a contest at the end of the video, at the end of the episode, where you'll get a chance to win a 30-minute consultation with me. So here's what you need to do to be eligible for winning 30-minute consultation with me. I figured that we can make the comment section to this video as much valuable, if not more valuable, than the actual video. So what I want you to do is I want you to leave a comment sharing some of your own experience, your own ideas on the things that I've discussed in this episode. Let me remind you, I discussed custom font, whether you have experience with this or not, new author box that we have on our blog, maybe you know any other like design tricks that you can do to enhance the appearance of your blog articles. Podcast interviews, I wonder if you have experience with that and what you can advise me or anyone else who will be watching the video and reading the comments. Then featured images for your blog articles, I wonder how you guys are solving this. Then we discussed a small list building hack of pre-filling email of your customers whenever you know it. And finally, product launches, which is actually a huge topic. Well, if you have something interesting to say about product launches, for example, if you've launched on Product Hunt and you got a lot of customers this way. So yeah, please share any of your knowledge, experience, thoughts or comments on the things that I've discussed in this episode. And the most valuable comment, or actually the most awesome comment, I'm not sure if I will pick the winner just by the value or just a little bit arbitrary to give a chance to others to win, will get 30-minute consultation with me. So yeah, I'm looking forward to your thoughts on what's happening in our marketing department, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.